large repository of Android apps. In the abstract to their paper, they wrote, "Device tracking is a serious threat to the privacy of users as it enables spying on their habits and activities. A recent practice embeds ultrasonic beacons in audio and tracks them using a microphone of mobile devices. This side channel allows an adversary to identify a user's current location, spy on their TV viewing habits, or link together their different mobile devices. In this paper, we explore the capabilities and current prevalence and technical limitations of this new tracking technique based on 3 commercial tracking solutions." So these are being commercially offered as SDKs to people for this purpose. To this end, they write, "We developed detection approaches for ultrasonic beacons and Android applications capable of processing these. Our findings confirm our privacy concerns. We spot ultrasonic beacons in various web media content and detect signals in 4 of 35 stores in 2 European cities that are used for location tracking. While we do not find ultrasonic beacons in TV streams from 7 countries, we spotted 234 Android applications that are constantly listening for ultrasonic beacons in the background without their users' knowledge." And it turns out these are not all store applications. McDonald's and Krispy Kreme are among the applications that are using this technology. So, with the headline, "Hundreds of privacy-invading apps are using ultrasonic sound for tracking," ZDN summarized it saying, "A new privacy-busting technique that tracks consumers through the use of ultrasonic tones may have once sounded like the stuff of science fiction novels. Today is reality. These near silent tones cannot be picked up by the human ear.
Good morning and welcome. We are about to begin. We invite everyone to please be seated. Also, just a reminder, this would be an excellent time to silence your devices. We appreciate your cooperation, and again, we're going to begin shortly. Thank you. Good morning and welcome. We are about to begin. We invite everyone to please be seated. Also, just a reminder, this would be an excellent time to silence your devices. We appreciate your cooperation, and again, we're going to begin very shortly. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you all doing? All right. Welcome to Seattle. Welcome to Build 2017. Finally, spring has arrived in Seattle. They tell me that it's a beautiful, bright, sunny day outside. And so we thought it'll be an awesome idea to bring you all into this dark room and talk about cloud computing. You know, for me, these developer conferences have been the way I've, in some sense, marked the passage of time. The progress that we as an industry make, we as a company have made, we as a set of developers in the ecosystem have made. Recently someone posted a presentation I did perhaps in '93. It was one of those classic code-on-screen developer conferences. This was pre-web. And we were so excited about Windows NT coming out and the birth of client server. And I think this slide was all about connecting to an SNA, through an SNA server to a host machine, getting data into Excel, using VB automation. And I was sort of listening to this, and I was thinking, wow, you know, it's so cool to get excited about technology. And in fact, my daughter saw this picture and said, who is that? And you know, a lot has changed. In fact, one of the developers, as I was prepping for it, said, hey, there seems to be a real inverse relationship between the amount of hair you have and the amount of computing power that we've now grown. And then later he realized that he made a big mistake. Because what about the future? Because I've reached the limits of physics now. I don't have more hair to lose. So we truly are in that post-Moore's law, and maybe it's GPUs and FPGAs or what have you that'll have to come and help us. It's stunning, though, to see the progress across the depth and breadth of our society and economy, and how digital technology is so pervasive. There was this one stat, because we are talking about the past a bit. In 1992, when I joined the company, the total amount of internet traffic, this was pre-web, was around 100 gigabytes per day. And now, per second, we have 17.5 million times that. In fact, 90% of all the data has been generated in the last 2 years. An autonomous car is going to generate something like 100 gigabytes per second. And by 2020, it's estimated that there is going to be 25 billion intelligent devices. So whether it's precision medicine or precision agriculture, whether it's digital media or the industrial internet, the opportunity for us as developers to have broad, deep impact on all parts of society and all parts of economy has never been greater. Now, but with this enormous opportunity, I believe comes enormous responsibility. We talked about this even last year. But to me, the choices we as developers make are going to have pretty profound implications. You know, I'm an unrepentant tech optimist, there's no question of that. But also I'm grounded, though, that there are unintended consequences of technology. And it's not that we can just use more technology to solve for those problems. And definitely technologies by themselves cannot solve for these. But I do believe that it is up to us to ensure that some of the more dystopian scenarios don't come true. I mean, if you think about it, what Orwell prophesied in 1984, where technology was being used to monitor, control, dictate, or what Huxley imagined we may do by just distracting ourselves without any meaning or purpose. Neither of these futures is something that we want. So the question is, what are we going to do? What are the practical ways we can make progress? And to me, it comes down to a set of design principles and choices we make. I believe we can make these practical design choices that help enshrine our timeless values. The first one is that we should empower people with technology. That's got to be the front and center consideration for everything that we do going forward. People have to be in the loop. Let's amplify their capability, amplify their ingenuity. Second, let us use technology to bring more empowerment to more people. When you have these amazing advances in computer vision, or speech, or text understanding, let us use that to bring more people to be able to use technology and to participate economically in our society. So this inclusive design ultimately can be an instrument for inclusive growth. And lastly, I think it's up to us. As the world becomes more technology-driven, digital technology is part and parcel of every aspect. Building trust in technology is crucial. And I think it starts with us taking accountability for the algorithms we create, the experiences that we create, and ensuring that there is more trust in technology with each day. These principles, these are practical things, but yet they capture, I think, the essence of the timeless values. And this is what grounds us in our mission. When we say we want to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more, and I think it especially speaks to empowering every developer. After all, we are a company that started as a dev tools company. We want to think about people, but we also want to think about the institutions people build. We want to think about what we do across the globe, every part of the world. And perhaps most importantly, it's not just celebrating any platform or technology of ours, but it's about celebrating what you can do with that technology to have broad impact. And that's what we've been realizing. That mission, that sense of purpose is what has been driving us in this mobile-first, cloud-first world. And the opportunity that you all have around Microsoft platforms is pretty stunning and amazing. Think about the 500 million Windows 10 devices that you can now reach through the Windows Store. That reach is what's going to drive our ecosystem going forward. It's going to give each one of you more of an audience, more users, more engagement in a secure way. And we're going to talk a lot about the advances in Windows Store throughout this conference. 100 million MAU of Office 365. This is the most valuable set of users in the core of the enterprise using these tools every day. And we've done a lot to make all of your applications more discoverable, more usable, inside the user experience scaffolding of Office. I mean, take Teams. It's so amazing to see how we build Teams with that third-party extensions being front and center. Bots, tabs, extensions, all of those being surfaced within the user experience scaffolding of Teams. I think huge opportunity. Outlook extensions, all through Office. So you have now the ability to reach 100 million of these most valuable users with any application you build. I mean, Cortana is getting used by 140 million users every month on Windows today. I mean, just to put this in perspective, these are devices, by the way, that all have near-field audio and screens. And so when you start writing skills that is going to take audio input or text input and have responses that are both audio and screens, you have an amazing install base already that's rich that you can extend. In terms of organizations, there are over 12 million organizational entities in Azure Active Directory. So this is both large businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, educational institutions. 12 million of them are already inside of Azure Active Directory. That means they're using one of the cloud services we have. And that means your applications can do single sign-on across all of these 12 million organizations, reducing friction, making it possible for you to reach them. Over 90% of the Fortune 500 are using our cloud today. So this is all a foundation for the opportunity that you have in front of you as you build your applications and services. And throughout these 3 days, we're going to talk about how we're continuing to advance these platforms, continuing to advance this opportunity so that you get the best return on the investments you make on Microsoft platforms. Now, one of the things that always happens is you as developers, with the apps you build and the feedback cycle between those applications and the platform is what shapes the evolution of platforms. Last year, we talked a lot about conversations as a platform, and this year, you will see in demo after demo people using conversations as a platform. People building agents, personal assistants that span devices, skills for those agents, bots, natural user interfaces for these multi-device applications, whether it be text or speech or even vision and gestures with mixed reality. IoT, big workload in the cloud. AI is everywhere. The ability to reason over large amounts of data, create intelligence, distribute it. Even the microservices, workflows, advanced analytics that people are building in the cloud are all pointing to what I think is a fundamental change in the paradigm of the apps that we are building, a change in the worldview that we have. We are moving from what is today's mobile-first, cloud-first world to a new world that is going to be made up of an intelligent cloud and an intelligent edge. And this entire conference is about talking about this massive shift that's going to play out in the years to come. There are three fundamental characteristics of this new application pattern and worldview. First is the user experience is getting distributed across devices. It's no longer just mobile first. In other words, it's not about one device, an app model for one device. The user experience itself is going to span all of your devices. Easiest to understand it when you think about your personal digital assistant. Your personal digital assistant, by definition, is going to be available on all your devices. And in fact, as you move between devices, it's going to be there, helping you get your tasks done. That multi-device experience is what now needs platform capability. You need new abstractions, not for just a single piece of hardware, but all of the devices that help you build out your application. And by the way, this is user experience that is not just about input. It has also got state in it. And so that's what leads to, in fact, the second big change that is happening. It's AI. We know the currency of this platform shift is all about data. We talked about the car, right? 100 gigabytes of data per second for an autonomous car or connected car. When you have that type of data being generated at the edge, data has gravity. Computational power will move to it. And so that means the AI you create is going to be, by definition, more distributed. You, in fact, already see these cases where people are doing a lot of the training in GPUs on the cloud, but are deploying the models in the edge. But we're reaching a point where you can't rendezvous all the data for training in the cloud. You actually will have to train and do your inferences in the edge. So you absolutely need a new set of abstractions for even AI in terms of how you learn and you train and you infer that spans both the edge and the cloud. And so as you see the experience as well as data and AI getting distributed, there needs to be a fundamental change in the inner and the outer loop of what we as developers do. Continuous integration, continuous deployment is going to change, and that's where things like microservices, containers are playing a massive role in the outer loop. But one of the things that's, I think, going to completely change how we think about logic is serverless. In a world where things get more distributed, event-driven, you want to be able to write logic that reacts to these events, is not static. That means you don't have a piece of logic just being bound and running on one virtual machine in one location, but it's something that can actually be mobile. I mean, think about even these AI models. One of the big challenges is going to be model drift. So you want to be able to tackle that. So serverless computation is going to fundamentally not only change the economics of what is back-end computing, but it's going to be the core of the future of distributed computing. So this application paradigm shift of intelligent cloud and intelligent edge is going to be pervasively changing everything we do inside of Windows, inside of Office 365, inside of Azure. And the rest of what you will hear about in the next 3 days is about unpacking this. So what I think the best way to perhaps get into this would be to actually start seeing this in action. The first demo we want to show you is from a company, Sandvik, which is a Swedish industrial automation company, 150 years old, 43,000 people in the company. They build industrial automation, these industrial metal cutting machinery that does high precision work. They built a cloud application to be able to take all of the data from their machines, do predictions, preventive maintenance. And they realized that, in fact, they started using the time series capability. So that means you were able to see the anomalies as they happen. But with time series, the cool thing is that you can, in fact, go back and see what is the causal effect or what is the causation of the anomaly. And so once you start seeing that, then they said, well, we should be able to make these decisions on when to shut the machine before it does any damage without having latency and bandwidth issues and so on. So they said, well, we need to distribute the logic that they've written in the cloud to the edge itself. And that's where they wrote Azure Functions. That's where the logic was written. And then they containerized it in Docker and moved it to the edge so that they could take those inference decisions and make them so much more faster. And to show you this demo, I wanted to invite up on stage Sam George from our IoT team to sort of illustrate how this intelligent cloud and intelligent edge is already working at Sandvik. Sam?
Thank you, Satya. Good morning, everyone. So the machine that you see costs over $1 million. It has over 900 moving parts. Any of those parts that break down could cause an interruption to that machine. And this machine doesn't exist in isolation. It exists in factories. And there's many of these machines in a factory. And so downtime to one machine can cause cascading failures to the factory and delays that cost millions of dollars per hour. Now, years ago, these machines were simply serviced at regular intervals. And as Satya just said, these are now being connected to the cloud so that you can predict the maintenance needs of these and to even shut them down in the case of a pending failure. So Sandvik Coromant has these connected to Azure, and they trust Azure and Azure IoT to keep these machines running and to keep them safe. So let's take a look at what they're doing. So here you see both the factory floor and the edge devices, as well as the cloud. Sandvik has software that's running on these machines, and the software is collecting telemetry from these devices and sending them to IoT Hub, to our Azure IoT Hub service, in a secure, scalable, two-way communication. Once the telemetry is through Azure IoT Hub, they're using a combination of stream analytics and machine learning to determine the maintenance needs of these machines and keep them running, and also to trigger a shutdown in the case of a pending damage to the machine. And so when that happens, they simply trigger an Azure function, which calls through Azure IoT Hub and then down to the devices themselves. Now, Sandvik, like many of our industrial customers, has also implemented fail-safe logic that runs out on the machine. So if there's a local network interruption, they can still monitor whether the machine needs to be shut down to protect it. And they had to develop that again. They already have that logic running in the cloud, and what they really, really want is to be able to take that logic in the cloud and move it out to the edge. So today, I'm thrilled to announce a breakthrough new capability we call Azure IoT Edge. Azure IoT Edge is a cross-platform runtime that runs on both Windows and Linux. It runs on devices even smaller than a Raspberry Pi. And it enables cloud functionality to be exported, run, and managed directly on IoT devices remotely. So now the picture starts to look dramatically different. Now Sandvik can simply take that logic and export it and run down on these devices. And what's nice about that is you get a nice symmetry where logic can be tested and developed in the cloud. You can run CI/CD pipelines in the cloud, and on successful deployments, you can run the exact same code out on the devices at very low latency. So to take a look at that in action, let's take a look at an operational dashboard. So what you see here is a set of factories across the globe, and I'm going to open one of them up. So these are all the different machines on this factory floor. Now, each one of these machines has its own unique telemetry that it's sending to the cloud, its own unique RPMs and power consumption and vibration, and all of that telemetry was used to create those machine learning modules that are fine-tuned to predict the maintenance needs for each one of these machines and to shut them down in the case of a pending failure. So if I go over to the Azure tab here, I can see all of the different logic that Sandvik has developed for these machines. And the first three are for the metal cutting machine that you saw when I came out. With this new capability that we've developed called Azure IoT Edge and this capability in the cloud, we can now simply take that logic and export it. And they get packaged up into portable Docker containers. And now when I go back to the factory floor, I get an alert on the machine that I just exported that there's new software available for it. So if I open this up, I see the operational dashboard for this machine. And it's got all sorts of interesting information, temperature, power consumption. But there's a really important one I want to draw your attention to, and that's up in the upper right-hand corner, the emergency response time. And what that is how long it takes for telemetry coming from these devices to be sent to the cloud, evaluated, and in the case of an emergency shutdown, for a signal to be sent back down to the device. Right now, that's a little over 2 seconds, and with Azure IoT Edge, we could do dramatically better. So these packages that I exported are now available. I'm going to open them up and select them. Now, I've already coordinated ahead of time with the IT and OT teams so that I know that it's safe to update these machines. And when I click deploy, what's going to happen is we're going to network these containers down to the machine, we're going to activate them, and they're going to start running that protection code right on the machine. And you're going to see the emergency response time drop dramatically. The reason why is that that logic is now running locally, so there's no cloud loop involved in it anymore. So I go ahead and click deploy. It's now downloading, installing, and running. And now you see we just dropped down to a little over 100 milliseconds. It's a 20x improvement. And now Sandvik Core Mount doesn't have to duplicate their logic in the cloud and on a device to protect these million-dollar machines. This is the power of Azure IoT Edge, and it's the power of an intelligent cloud working in harmony with an intelligent edge. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. I mean, that shows you the simple but powerful illustration of how you can take logic, distribute it to, in this case, improve response times. Now, let's take it to the next logical step. In fact, let's take it to the extreme. You know, when you think about the last, say, 20 years or so, one of the most profound changes that we've seen is what's happened with the web and something like search, where all the text that was ever created could get indexed and searched, reasoned over. I mean, we're crawling all the time. We're able to understand all of the world's text and then to serve it up, knowing what's in it. Just imagine if we can do that with any physical place. Suppose we can create these digital twins of a hospital, of an industrial setting, a factory floor. And fundamentally, you could start reasoning about people, their relationship with other people, the things in the place, all towards creating safety for human beings. When you can start setting policy on what is safe interactions, that can absolutely change lives and make sure that some of the, in fact, there was a survey that was done by the National Council of Occupational Safety and Health, and basically it said that pretty much all of the accidents in the workplace can, in fact, be prevented if you were able to detect these anomalies before they happen. So that's the kind of impact some of the technology that we have now can have. And so we put together a demo for you using pretty much the runtimes that are all available to us. The new Azure IoT Edge, when you have lots and lots of devices in a place and you're creating a mesh, in fact, an ad hoc data center gets created pretty much nowadays in a factory floor or at home or anywhere else. And for that, we even have Azure Stack as the edge of the cloud so that you have the computation and storage capability. You have the ability to run these cognitive services, things like computer vision on a commodity camera. Bringing all of this edge compute together and edge intelligence together with the cloud, you can turn any place into a safe AI-driven place. And what we wanted to do is roll a video to show you some of the scenarios, And then Andrea will come out and give you a demo of this AI-driven workplace for safety. Andrea, let's roll the video first.
As our world becomes increasingly digitized, so does our ability to connect with it. Imagine if you could search your surroundings the same way you search the web. Using existing cameras and advances in AI, we can now find things and people in the real world in real time and take action to improve safety and well-being. When a dangerous spill occurs in a chemical plant, cameras recognize the incident. Information about the spill is instantly shared with the people who need it the most, enabling them to protect other employees from coming in contact with the hazard and clean it up. This technology can also help keep people safer in hospitals. Patients recovering from heart surgery are limited to how much they should exert themselves. When someone exceeds the prescribed level of activity, a nurse is alerted. What's more, the location of the closest wheelchair is identified, so that the nurse can quickly get the patient seated and safe. This technology is also useful in an environment like a construction site, where people who need specialized tools are spread out, sometimes across multiple floors. Using cameras already in place, this technology can identify a specific tool, as well as the closest authorized person who can deliver it, saving everyone time and keeping the workflow moving. The digital and physical worlds are coming together to help make everyone more safe, secure, and productive. And we're bringing the edge of Microsoft's cloud to any device.
Good morning, everybody. So let's take a look at how you can digitize real-world environments like what we just saw in the video. As Satya said, today we're going to show you a solution that we've built using Microsoft Azure Stack, Azure Functions, Cognitive Services, and commodity cameras that make this a reality. In a highly controlled environment like a construction site, being able to track equipment, people, and what they're doing is critical to workplace safety. So the first thing I want to show you is over to your right, where we have a construction yard, and you're going to see Yana is working. Using our technology right now, both people and object recognition models are currently deployed in that construction yard. And then on the screen there before you, you can see the solution is recognizing Yana in real time, as well as equipment like the green jackhammer on the floor there. Now, over next door to your left is a workshop space, which is where Ayuba is working. And right now, with our technology, only people recognition is deployed in that space. So we're going to start by searching for an object using this phone. Let's say I want to find a jackhammer. I'm going to type, where is a jackhammer? If I could spell it, I will type it. There we go. Now you can see, even though there is actually a jackhammer resting against the bench in Ayuba's workshop, the system doesn't see it, but it does find the one next door, which again is where we have both people and object recognition deployed. The system is going to let me do things like find who's trained to use that jackhammer and also who last used it. And so that means I can actually use this technology to ensure my project is meeting health and safety regulations. And so in order to do that, I'm going to deploy an object recognition model in the workshop. But before I do, take note again of that jackhammer in Ayuba's workshop. It is resting vertically against the bench, which is actually a very unsafe position for such a large, heavy object to be in. And so I've already gone ahead and I've tagged that jackhammer in a variety of safe and unsafe positions in the system. And so when I update this pipeline, which I'm going to do right now, it's not only going to see the jackhammer now, but it is also going to tell me it's in an unstable orientation. And it's going to notify Ayuba, so he's able to very quickly resolve the issue. The solution is running more than 27 million recognitions per second across people, objects, and activities, both in the yard and in the workshop. And we're making changes to the solution in real time in the cloud and deploying it to the edge, which is a great example of how we can stretch the cloud to create a mesh of interconnected devices and services. So now, imagine if we could take that a step further, recognizing people and then applying a set of policies to them to ensure workplace safety. Over in the construction yard, we have a new employee, Christina, who is showing up for her first day of work. So I'm going to go ahead and onboard her into the system just by using this phone again and typing a simple command. Show me non-employees on the job site. Now, because this is a highly controlled environment and health and safety is so imperative, there are cameras already deployed on that job site. And so they have already captured her photo, and that makes it very easy to onboard her. I can just click on her picture, new person, and go ahead and enter her information. Okay, so now she's onboarded. And now I can create a new policy to enforce that credentialed employees can do things like use jackhammers. So I'm going to type a policy. Only credentialed employees can use jackhammers. Okay, the new policy has been activated, and so now she can just go about her job, and I won't get any policy violations, which means my regulations are being met. Now, if somebody who is not authorized to use that equipment comes onto the construction yard, a workflow is going to notify me and people nearby of a potentially dangerous situation. Like that one, for example. You can see the violation's been triggered, and Christine is able to quickly resolve it. Now, this was an intentionally simple scenario, but examples like this one and the ones you saw in the video are all based on real customer requirements, and they support even more complex business processes using cognitive services, Azure Functions, Azure Stack, and commodity cameras to bring the edge of Microsoft's cloud to any device. The intelligent edge is the interface between the computer and the real world. And so we have just shown you how you can search the real world for people, objects, and activities and apply policies to them to improve health and safety. It's early days, but we are really excited for the potential of AI for workplace safety. And with this technology, we think you have an opportunity to build even more sophisticated solutions that have the power to transform entire industries. And we'll share more over the next 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And that was a pretty amazing example of what this new architecture, the ability to distribute intelligence in the cloud as well as in the edge, can do to deliver something like AI for safety. But now let's move to end-user computing, right? So we've seen a couple of amazing examples of what's happening with these industrial applications. But what's happening with the edge is for sure happening with the devices we use every day. In fact, just the social complexity. Bill Buxton, who is a UI researcher, always likes to remind me that the fundamental challenge we have as an industry right now is the social complexity of our devices. I mean, just think about the notifications. How many times do I need to get notified across all my devices? In order to solve for that, you need to be able to have that intelligence that spans all of your devices. You need to have these agents that span all of your devices. And so you need a new architecture for everything from notifications to agents to task completion. And that's really what we are set out to build. In fact, the journey got started with Office 365. You know, Office 365 was pretty profound in the sense that we took workloads like Exchange or Skype or SharePoint to the cloud. But beyond the move of an individual workload to the cloud, the more profound shift that happened was underneath. It was the data plane. The people and the relationship with other people is now a first-class thing in the cloud. It's not just people, but it's their relationships. It's their relationships to all of the work artifacts, their schedules, their project plans, their documents. All of that now is manifest in this Microsoft graph. And with the move to Windows as a service, you even have all of the devices that people use moving to the cloud itself. So you now have this very rich data graph of people, their activities, their devices, all principled under user security principles and organizational security principles. So when we talked about that Azure Active Directory and the Microsoft account, those security principles still govern the access to all of this data. So it's really the user's data. But now there is a new platform in Microsoft Graph that allows every developer, as they start constructing these multi-device experiences, to be able to access people, their relationships, their activities, as well as their devices. And you'll see this even tomorrow in the Windows presentation as to how this programming model is going to manifest at the core of what is Windows applications going forward. And so if you take a scenario like meetings, and most people think about meetings as a one-time thing, but the reality is people come together, collaborate before a meeting, to prepare for the meeting, and then during the meeting, and then want to be able to access the artifacts from the meeting after the meeting. Right? So there is a temporal part to a meeting. There is multiple people, multiple devices. And when you think about building an application or an experience for meeting, thinking about it as in simple terms of a single device experience or a single cloud service is just not sufficient. You need new programming model abstractions that allow you to think about everything that spans an intelligent meeting. And to show you this in action, I wanted to invite up on stage Laura Jones and team to show you how intelligent meetings can be built using everything that we have in the Microsoft Graph and Office 365, in Azure, as well as in Windows and other devices. Laura, take it away.
Thanks, Satya. Thanks. Today, we're going to show you 3 things that demonstrate our vision for the future of productivity. First, how Microsoft services work across contexts and devices. Second, how developers can leverage the Microsoft Graph to build device intelligence right into their apps. And third, how we're bringing together our productivity platform to optimize the meeting experience. Hey, Cortana, what's my day look like?
I found 3 events today. First up, at 9 a.m. you have a meeting titled Packaging Review. It looks like you're low on fuel, so I suggest leaving 10 minutes early to make your 9 a.m. meeting on time. Also, you got an update from Expedia confirming flights and a hotel room.
Right. That's the upcoming vacation I have, so I better let my boss know. Hey, Cortana. Ask time away to set my out of office from Monday to Friday.
Okay, you're marked as out of office from Monday to Friday. Your auto-reply message is set, and your time off has been entered in the time away system.
Awesome. Developers can create Cortana skills that work across platforms, like this example with the Invoke speaker, where Cortana's working directly with my Works time off system to fulfill my request. Hey, Cortana, do I have any other reminders for today?
You mentioned you would provide a list of designers for review in today's meeting.
Right. Remind me when I get to the car.
Got it.
With the device graph, I'm able to push this notification to any of my devices. So I could push it to my Xbox, but since I'm headed that way, I've gone ahead and set it to my car. Don't laugh, it gets great fuel economy. So with the help of Cortana, I'm fueled up and ready to make my meeting on time.
There's an accident on 520 that will make you late for your 9 a.m. meeting. Would you like me to let the other attendees know and connect you when it starts?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Guess I spoke too soon.
Hi Laura, just a reminder to provide a list of designers for your packaging review meeting.
Ask LinkedIn to pull all the designers from my network.
I found all the designers in your network. Would you like me to read out the top 5 or send you a summary?
Send a summary to my product review channel.
Okay, I added that to your team channel.
Because Cortana's aware of the device I'm on, she's able to provide me with contextually appropriate responses so I can take the best next step.
Hi Laura, your meeting is about to start. Should I connect you?
Yes, please. Hey folks, I'm running a little late, but go ahead and get started without me.
No worries, Laura. We got your note earlier. So while Laura joins, let me take a second and show you guys around Microsoft Teams. For those of you that haven't seen it, this is Microsoft Teams, the new chat-based collaborative workspace in Office 365. And we're in a Teams meeting. Now, one of the great features in Teams is tabs. Using tabs, I can take anything that I access most frequently, whether it's documents, any third-party content, or like this Power BI tab here, which has our survey results. And I can pin it in my channel. And from there, I can easily screen share it straight into my meeting.
Now, one of the most disruptive things that can happen in a meeting is when someone enters the room late or enters the call late. Now, what if I could simply just walk into the meeting, and just like that, the Teams app has turned into companion mode because it's aware of my context. Windows is adding 2 new components to the Microsoft Graph. Activities like this meeting that I'm in or a document that I might be working on throughout the day, and devices like this iOS device. Here, we're using Project Roam to adapt my app based on the fact that I've walked into a meeting. Developers can leverage these APIs through the Project Roam SDK to bridge the gaps between people, apps, devices, and services, and enable truly mobile experiences.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, Rashir. Hi, Fatima. How are things going with the focus group data?
Hey, I looked at the data last night. The demographic that we're aiming for prefers a cleaner font with more blues and greens.
OK, good to know. Let's go ahead and pull up the LinkedIn list that I sent from the car.
Sure. Let me share the LinkedIn tab.
I've worked with Joe before on a similar project. Rashir, would you mind pulling up some of his current work?
Sure. Now, in my Teams meetings, I can also chat with my channel's bots. And developers can use the Microsoft Bot Framework to light up some amazing conversational experiences in Teams meetings. Let me show you one. Adobe Creative Cloud Bot. Show me Joe Manzo's recent projects.
That looks cool. Laura is saying that you worked with Joe before. Do you mind making the connection for us?
Yeah, sure thing.
Great. Meeting spot. Assign task to Laura to connect with Joe on the packaging project.
Great. Now that that's done, I wanted to show you guys the latest comps for the packaging. With the Teams companion app, I'm able to share video and photo straight into the meeting. Now, I think it's a little retro, but let me know what you guys think.
Yeah, that's retro.
Right, well, hopefully Joe can bring it up to date. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye, Fatma.
So when I get back to my desk and open up my laptop, Cortana's waiting there for me with an action item from earlier in the day. When I click on the notification, it takes me to Outlook, where there's an email with my meeting summary. It has the attendee list, the video links, the tabs used, and the bot interactions. Best of all, here's my action item. I could go ahead and mark it as complete right in the email, but I want to dig in a bit more. Developers could add content to this actionable email or create Outlook plugins like this one from Microsoft Stream. When I click on the plugin, the Stream service gives me a transcription of the meeting. I can see key points, when they were made, and who made them. This way, I can get the context that I need to complete my action item. And of course, the Stream service uses the publicly available Microsoft Translation APIs, so I can get this in the language of my choice. So what you've seen us show you today are Teams and Cortana, two services leveraging the Intelligent Edge and Microsoft Graph. With hero experiences like these, we're able to turn any device into a productivity device, so I can move fluidly throughout my day, no matter where I am. Developers can leverage the Microsoft Graph to create systems of intelligence that will fundamentally change the future and culture of work. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. So it's a pretty amazing world you can create using this new platform of intelligent cloud and intelligent edge. Hopefully the three examples give you a feel for the depth and breadth of apps you could build. You can build these intelligent cloud apps. You can distribute them using these intelligent edge runtimes. You can have the operational complexity of all of that distributed computing tamed because of these new technologies like serverless compute with support for microservices and containers. You can extend the Microsoft Graph. You can consume the Microsoft Graph and reason over it, build intelligence into every experience that spans devices. So it's a pretty awesome set of capabilities that these platforms provide. And you'll see a lot more of this throughout the rest of the conference. But I want to close where I started. It's this opportunity and responsibility that we have in front of us. Really, the future of computing is not going to be defined by any runtime or platform technology. It is going to be defined by the choices that you as developers make and the impact of those choices in the world. And I'm always inspired when I listen to these stories of an individual developer who develops this deep sense of empathy for a scenario and other human beings, and then goes after it with this most malleable of resources that we have, software, and changes the world. Let's roll the video of one such developer.
Okay, right, I'm going to try and replicate this here. We're off to a great start. I tend to kind of just avoid doing sketching and writing now because it's not really worth it if you get something like that. Anything you could do that would just make my hand do what I want it to do and to be able to sign my name would be an incredible thing.
How do we even just begin to help her overcome this particular symptom of her tremors and helping her be able to regain her writing ability, her drawing ability? So what I'm doing is I'm making a very rough prototype, and what this board does is I can connect into it through these wires, these tiny coin cell motors. So these motors will vibrate. I personally think that what this is doing is it's short-circuiting whatever feedback loop there is between the brain and the hand that's causing the tremors. So the idea is if you are distracted by the vibration, are you able to write better? I don't know. I don't know.
It's affecting something. I don't quite know what's happening.
I'm on to something, right? I'm on to something.
It makes me forget that I have a tremor. I've drawn one of them for a long time. I've actually just written my name for like the first time in ages.
I can't believe it.
Mum, it's called the Emma.
Oh, brilliant.
It's got my name on it. Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Emma and Hyan. Thank you so much, Emma and Hyan, for being here, sharing your story, and inspiring all of us, and showing, I believe, what that opportunity and responsibility that we all have as developers to build that common ground with our fellow human beings, to have that impact. Thank you so much again for being here, inspiring us, and I hope that this is something that we as developers can take forward with the choices we make. Thank you all very, very much, and thank you again.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Build. Satya just demonstrated some of the incredible opportunities that we as developers all have today, and the amazing impact that we can have on people's lives. Now, I'm not going to go deeper into the intelligent cloud platform that we're building here at Microsoft and talk about the platforms and tools that we're building to enable you to take advantage of and build amazing solutions. One of the defining aspects of cloud computing is really the ability to innovate and release new technology faster and at greater scale than ever before. The set of new technology that's coming out, things like IoT, AI, microservices, serverless computing, and more, is all happening right now, thanks in large part due to cloud computing. And it's an incredibly exciting time to be a developer, and the opportunities to explore new approaches and new technology has never been greater. At the same time, I also recognize that while all this stuff is amazingly cool, it can also be just a little overwhelming. I hear this concern a lot from a lot of the conversations I have with developers around the world. The expectation to know all these new technologies and to be up to date with them all the time can leave you feeling sometimes like you're falling behind. Similarly, the expectations that your companies now have on you to be able to quickly deliver breakthrough experiences with all this new technology is also incredibly high. And in a lot of cases now, your companies are now betting on you to really deliver new digital experiences that don't just run the business, but really transform the business and drive new revenue streams. And at the same time, there's a constant worry that sometimes some of the apps that you build might be hacked. And you now need to be careful, not just about the security, but also while simultaneously trying to learn the new tech and deliver these breakthrough experiences. And needless to say, all of this isn't easy. And it's really with this understanding that shapes how we build and design and deliver Azure. Every day my team works to make Azure a powerful enterprise-grade cloud service. But the more important thing that we're working on is really to build Azure to help guide your success. Having great technology and lots of features is necessary, but not really sufficient. It's really about how those features enable you to be successful with that technology and with the cloud. And deliver on this, we're focusing Azure innovation on your needs, by making cutting-edge technology approachable to every developer, and doing the heavy lifting to really ensure that Azure uniquely meets the enterprise scenarios that you require. Satya spoke about responsibility and trust quite a bit this morning when he was talking about technology. Trust is a core value of everything we do at Microsoft, and specifically with Azure. And we now lead the industry in our work on security, compliance, privacy, and responsibility. And in everything that we deliver, we've really tried to design the features that we build to drive results. This means having an end-to-end experience across our platform services, our management tools, our development tools, that really provide the most productive developer experience possible and really enables you to build amazing solutions that can truly transform your businesses. What I'd like to do to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like and how all these pieces fit together is invite Scott Hanselman on stage now to show off a demo of the combination of Azure and our Visual Studio family of tools in action, and to really highlight the end-to-end experience you now get when developing for Azure and the Microsoft Cloud. Here's Scott.
Hi, friends. You've heard how Azure is delivering innovation that's been customized for your needs, designed for results, all inside of the trusted cloud. And one of the ways that we do this is through our management stack and the dev tools to give you the things that will guide you to success. Now, here I am in the Azure portal. You've probably seen this many times before and you're familiar with it. But you can customize it, and I've customized it here. I've built on top of this management stack by pinning information from all over Azure. I've pulled in an Application Insights application map. I've got requests from my website, database utilization, pulled in compute information, all inside of my customizable dashboard that I can then share with other people on my team. One of the things that's exciting about this, though, is to understand why this is working. It's because of all those programmatic APIs that Azure exposes to you, the end user. Each one of these is coming from a different Azure resource and presenting its information in an easy to understand and customizable way. That's an amazing UI experience for both developers and DevOps people, but we've also put a huge investment into our CLI, into our command line interface. And we thought, what better way to showcase that than to announce today the inclusion of the Azure Cloud Shell inside of the Azure portal. This is a real bash shell with PowerShell coming soon. I can type top just to prove it to you if you don't believe me. And what's great about this is that I've got a persistent cloud drive. That means that these things on my drive are there and available to me everywhere. Included in the Azure Cloud Shell is the Azure CLI, pre-installed, pre-logged in, pre-set up with your credentials and your information. So I can immediately type something like Azure VM list and explore that rich API. And here I got JSON. Got back some JSON. Maybe JSON's not what I want, so I'll type Azure VM list, and I'll change the output to a table. And because it's a real container-based system with a real bash shell talking to real Unix, I can go and grep for something. This is using a great open source tool called Xterm.js to experience all of this in the browser. I've left nothing. I have not installed anything on my machine, and I am immediately able to go and query Azure directly from here. What's cool about this, though, is I can go and maybe do something complicated. Why not create 1,000 virtual machines from the command line, right? Why not? So let's just hit enter and make 1,000 virtual machines. And then while that is firing off, just because I want you to really, really believe me, I'll run Vim. And since I don't know how to exit Vim, I'm going to just have to reboot Azure completely to get out of Vim. So now we're going to close the Cloud Shell. And I will go and click on my resources in the corner here, and those 1,000 virtual machines are coming up in a virtual machine scale set, and we are going to 1,000 instances right now, all inside of Azure. It's pretty fantastic stuff. We can look at those instances rolling in right now. Now, it's great to have that beautiful UI that sits on top of the management stack, and now I have a great CLI, a cloud-based shell inside of Azure pre-configured for me. But I'm a remote worker. I'm always mobile. Wouldn't it be nice if I could monitor and deal with those virtual machines on the go? So another great announcement today is the Azure mobile app on iPhone and Android. I can go in here and look at my web application. I can see my charts and graphs. I can start and stop it. But when you have something great like peanut butter and something great like chocolate, you've got to combine the both of them. So you put the Cloud Shell in the mobile app. So now I'm with my family at Chili's and I SSH into production, and I know that non-technical spouse will appreciate my attention to detail there at with the family. There's no way that that will affect my relationships at all. So I can manage all that great stuff in Azure, but I noticed something earlier when I logged in. I saw that there was an error here in my application map that was making me a little uncomfortable. I saw that my availability wasn't very high. I've got an issue here on the server side. So I'm going to go and look at the full application map and go from the portal into Application Insights. This gets you this great experience that shows you all of your dependencies. So you can see that my web application depends on this API, and it looks like we've got a out-of-range exception and a number of them. So we've received a large number of exceptions. I'm going to go ahead and click on those exceptions and take a look where they happened, when they happened, how they happened. This is going to automatically create a debug snapshot. The intelligent cloud has been watching what's happening, and it's intelligently sampling. There's been hundreds of errors, but it's picked the best ones, like a burst mode on your phone, picking the one that makes you look best. And here it's got a debug snapshot that I can then open up. I'm on production, though. This is running in production on Azure. So let's switch over to Visual Studio that we know and love, and I want to call your attention to the upper left-hand corner here. Visual Studio is debugging an application running in Azure, and I want to point out that the URL is not localhost. What we're doing here is we're enabling safe debugging with production data. The intelligent snapshots are seeing the errors happen without affecting my users in production, popping off these snapshots, but I can also give hints. If the automatic snapshot's on enough, I could say, I'm suspicious of this and that line, and then I can start and not make a breakpoint like we do when we do local debugging, but a snap point that is going to tell Azure when that line gets run, grab a dump for me, and I'm going to go ahead and say, start collection. We're in production still. I'm going to go and just do the things that one does in production. And you'll notice in the center there, in that diagnostic session, I am automatically getting dumps that I can then visit. I can go and say View Snapshot. Attached to that, without affecting production, I am looking at the data that I need to. In the debugger that I love to use, I've got the call stack, I've got the objects, all production apps in Azure. This is kind of find those bugs that you just can't find unless they happen in production, and that is now integrated with the intelligent cloud of Azure and Visual Studio. You go and combine that with something fabulous like Code Lens that tells me when the team made the mistakes, and I know immediately that Dan has to go when he made the change. And there's the failed requests both locally, because I can then continue my debug session locally or see which exceptions happen and then analyze the impact of those changes. It's all fantastic and integrated in Visual Studio. So this is Visual Studio on Windows. What about our wonderful friends on the Macintosh? Let's switch over to our Mac. Here is Visual Studio for the Mac, and I'm running that application. In Visual Studio for Mac, based on the Xamarin technologies, I can say File, New Solution, pick a native app, and you'll notice so I can pick my target platforms like Android and iOS, and there's a button right here that says Add ASP.NET Core Web API Project, automatically giving me that .NET backend that would feed my native application. I've got a great experience for adding packages, for bringing in libraries from NuGet, all inside of my IDE, and even better, I can right-click and say Publish to Azure after I've fixed that bug. It talks to Azure App Service, loads those services up. I can pick one or even create an app service directly from inside of Visual Studio for the Mac. I want to go ahead and publish my fix over to staging. That'll pop up here in the corner. We're going to go and build that .NET application, launch it. I am now published to Azure, and I'm running that application from Visual Studio for Mac, and there we go. And what's even more exciting about this, and what I am very proud to announce, is the general availability and the release of Visual Studio for Mac. You can go and download that right now. Have a wonderful time doing mobile apps and web apps and Unity apps and mobile apps. It's so fantastic. I'm very excited about it. So all of these tools sit on top of that trusted cloud. So let's talk about trust for a second and switch back over to the Azure portal. If I have 1,000 virtual machines in the cloud, that can be a little overwhelming, and I want to make sure that those things are secure. I can go into the Azure Security Center and look at all of the different things I have from compute, networking, my web applications, and look at specific recommendations that Azure has as it calls into that management stack and explores what my application's doing. And I can see I should maybe add a next generation firewall, possibly put disk encryption on some of my virtual machines. And I made 1,000 VMs, but I'm a little concerned that maybe one is being attacked. Security incident detected. Apparently Guthrie is in the back with the mobile app attacking my virtual machine. So I need to go and take care of that. Now, as you see here, we've got these amazing, innovative tools for management, for development, and they're going to make you not just productive, but they're going to get you results. And I want you to know that we welcome every developer, every language, and every application, and we're going to guide you to success on the Azure cloud. Thank you.
So Scott gave you a look at the end-to-end developer experience that you get when you build for Azure, and really showed off a number of the great enhancements that we're shipping this week. We have a whole bunch more, but he just kind of showed, I think, a nice sampling of these. In particular, we're really excited to announce that the Azure Cloud Shell is now available to use. And this gives you a fantastic way to manage all your Azure resources, not just from a CLI, but a CLI directly inside a browser, so you don't even need to install anything locally. We also have the Azure Mobile Portal available for you to download and start using on your phone. And with the Visual Studio Snapshot debugging support, this now really enables you to debug production apps without impacting users. And we're incredibly excited about the general availability release of VS for Mac. Every customer that has Visual Studio today is now licensed for both the existing IDE you have as well as for Visual Studio on the Mac. And this gives you now the ability to develop with a single code base, develop on multiple platforms, and you can now target both mobile and cloud, as well as .NET Core and ASP.NET Core, all within the IDE you love. And including, as you saw Scott show off, with the Visual Studio for Mac support, is for the first time Azure tooling support built in directly with that, enabling you to publish all of that to the cloud. So the focus we've had on sort of delivering on innovation, trust, and results is leading to tremendous adoption of Azure right now. 90% of the largest 500 companies in the world are now running their businesses using the Microsoft Cloud. And these are just a handful of some of the customers running on Azure today. What I want to do is let's go ahead and watch a video of a few of them talking about the success they're seeing with Azure.
Microsoft Azure gives us key cloud-based infrastructure that we need. We made a big decision to break down our existing platform, which was one big, large, monolithic lump of software, into a microservice architecture.
This Black Friday, we served 167 million requests in the 24 hours. Average page response times came down by about half a second. That's what you're looking for in a new platform.
Azure provides the glue that brings together the data from our internal on-premise systems and join that with information held in the cloud. We use Azure Application Services and also Azure SQL Database to provide the data resources to the application. To achieve single sign-in, we have federated across from Azure Active Directory to our Oracle Access Management.
And that was fantastic. That was the equivalent of putting a very old car on the moon.
We wanted to make it really easy for our customers to get meaning out of their data. The industrial Internet of Things is different only in the fact that our customers have very stringent requirements about how data moves. We want one place to egress that data that we can lock down. The advantage of it being Azure is IoT Hubs makes it very easy to get that data in. Power BI makes it very easy to visualize that data once it's there.
It allows us to put a data scientist in a box.
Microsoft helped us achieve our digital transformation. It's put us over the top. Geico's been growing leaps and bounds, and we have not had any issues whatsoever from a capacity perspective because of the on-demand capability and scalability of Azure. We can handle the volume. We're like, bring it on. We want more.
So you can use Azure for infrastructure and just take advantage of it for base compute, storage, and virtual machines. But you can also take advantage of a coherent set of highly engineered services to build your apps even faster. And what I'm going to do for the rest of this keynote is walk through a couple of these key areas and talk about some of the announcements this week that we're doing to make you even more successful with them. Let's start by talking about data. Data is a core part of every app and experience being built today. And the couple of things that we hear, that I hear a lot from developers is, one, you really love your particular database of choice, and you want to be able to keep using it as you move to the cloud. And then secondly, as you start to move to use that database in the cloud, you'd really like to have a more efficient experience than just running it inside a virtual machine. You don't want to have to manually configure things like high availability. You'd rather not have to manually take care of backups. You want to be able to easily scale up and scale down your databases with zero app downtime. Let's talk about how we're making these things easy with Azure. Last month we announced our new SQL Server 2017 release. SQL Server 2017 is the fastest, most secure, and most intelligent database on the planet, and now provides ultimate flexibility. And we're releasing SQL 2017 simultaneously on Windows Server, on Linux, as well as Docker-based systems. And it really delivers unparalleled performance with our new adaptive query processing engine, making it the fastest release of SQL Server ever. And we're also, with this release, now building in machine learning capabilities and allowing you to do in-memory operations with it. This enables you now to use machine learning models built directly in R and Python and run them inside the database, making your apps more intelligent than ever. Now, one of the things that makes SQL Server unique is that it's the only data platform out there that's available both on premises and as a fully managed service in the cloud using Azure. And what this means is that you can now take advantage of all of that SQL Server functionality everywhere and get the best possible experience when using it as a fully managed experience in the cloud. You can now stand up a new SQL database in Azure within 60 seconds and have it be highly available, durable, secure, and fault tolerant without you having to configure anything. And Azure provides built-in backup and point-in-time restore capabilities, automatic performance tuning support, as well as threat detection capabilities that enable you to run your apps more securely. And best of all, you get all these capabilities without having to manage or spin up any virtual machines, and without having to worry about patching them or tuning any of the infrastructure manually. Our SQL Database as a Service offering takes care of all that for you. This week at Build, we're launching a new Azure data migration service that's going to make it even easier for you to migrate your existing databases to use our Azure SQL Database as a Service offering. This data migration service really streamlines moving existing database systems to Azure and provides a fully automated workflow to do so, both for SQL Server instances as well as for non-Microsoft database platforms as well, including Oracle-based systems. And this new data migration service, combined with additional capabilities that we're releasing this year with SQL Database, is going to make it trivially easy to migrate literally every single SQL Server instance that you have to the cloud without having to make any database changes and without having to make any code changes within your application. And really have a seamless, near-zero downtime migration experience. DocuSign's a great example of one Azure customer taking advantage of this new capability. DocuSign is one of the leading enterprise SaaS providers today and supports more than 200 million users. And they've historically run their transaction processing systems within their own data centers. And we're very honored that today they're announcing that they've chosen Azure as their cloud platform to run their systems on going forward. Here's a video of them talking about this decision.
Hundreds of millions of people are DocuSign customers every day, transacting their most important business. For so many of our customers, their transactions are personal. We garner our customers' trust every day. Trust is the sort of thing that you earn in a lifetime and lose in an instant. We process 1.1 million transactions per day on our platform. Our transaction volume approximately doubles every year. What that means for me is that we are constantly scaling and evolving. We wanted the best of what we do in our data center, which is reliable SQL servers on flash storage, with the best of what Azure could bring to it, which is globally expanding, rapid deployment, high scale, with the best of what the SQL team could bring to it, which is a deep knowledge of the product and help in managing this thing at scale. And for us, we found that Azure SQL Database was the best way to do it. We deploy our SQL Server schema elements into a managed instance. and we point the application via connection string change directly over to the managed instance.
We basically picked up our existing build infrastructure and we're able to deploy to Azure within a few seconds. It allows us to scale the business very quickly with very minimal effort.
The holy grail in a move like this is being able to lift your existing platform, move it into Azure without significant amounts of work, without having to re-engineer things. And at the other side of that, get the incredible value that Azure brings to the table. Our hope is that Azure becomes the way we do global expansion. We want to help customers all over the world bring their paper processes into the digital world, to allow us to be the accelerant that they need to move faster and faster into this digital transformation.
So a few minutes ago, I talked about how we know that developers love their particular database of choice and really want to keep using it as they move to the cloud. You know, some love SQL Server, some love MySQL, some love Postgres. And today, we're really excited to bring two new database as a service offerings to Azure. One provides MySQL as a service, and the other now provides Postgres as a service. Both of these are fully managed database offerings, just like our SQL database offering today. You can stand up a new MySQL or a Postgres database in Azure now using these in under 60 seconds. They have high availability and security built in, and we automatically patch and update them for you. And unlike other cloud providers, we enable you to elastically scale up or down the performance of these databases with zero application downtime. And best of all, they're 100% compatible with all existing MySQL and Postgres tools, drivers, and frameworks. And they're available for you to start using today. Now, as you use the cloud to reach new global users, your data also needs to scale. Scale in terms of the volume of data that you're managing, the different variety of data models that you want to represent inside your application, and above all, in terms of the performance that you need to achieve. And each next generation application really needs a strategy to handle all these different types of scenarios. And today, I'm also really excited to announce Azure Cosmos DB, which is the first globally distributed multi-model database service that delivers turnkey horizontal scale-out with guaranteed millisecond latency and uptime. And it's designed to explicitly enable these types of next-generation apps. Imagine a horizontally scalable database that puts data everywhere that your users are. With Cosmos DB, we've built a database service that does just that and can automatically replicate data to any Azure region around the world to give your users lightning-fast performance regardless of wherever they're accessing your application. Cosmos DB allows you to choose the data model that best fits your application use case and gives you the flexibility to access it using the API of your choice. So for example, you could store data in a key value format, or graph, or document data, all inside Cosmos DB. Cosmos DB automatically indexes all the data and allows you to use your favorite NoSQL APIs, including DocumentDB, MongoDB, Gremlin, Azure Table Storage, to query this data and work with it. And Cosmos DB allows you to elastically scale your storage and performance throughput across one or multiple Azure regions with zero application downtime. You can start with just a few gigabytes of data and scale up to store petabytes of it. And you can start processing with, say, just 100 transactions per second and scale up to millions of transactions per second with zero downtime. And best of all, with Cosmos DB, you pay only for the storage and the performance throughput that you actually use, which enables you to really change the economics of how you store data in the cloud. And Cosmos DB is the only database with comprehensive SLAs, not just for availability, but also for data consistency as well as performance. With Cosmos DB, we guarantee single millisecond response time at the 99th percentile as one of the SLAs that's built in. That's really a game changer. And what's great is, unlike any other service, you can actually monitor that SLA and that metric directly inside the Azure Management Portal to see how your application is doing and to ensure that it's reaching that point. That enables you to build just amazing solutions, unlike any others out there today. Jet.com is a great customer who's running entirely on Azure today. is a fantastic example of the type of service that can really take advantage of a global database like Cosmos DB. Here's a video of them talking about Jet.com and how they're using Azure.
E-commerce is probably the most exciting game in town these days. Jet.com is a mass market e-commerce site.
We have over 31 million SKUs. You want to buy it, we carry it.
Our approach is really around how we present savings to the consumer. Jet came out of the gate day one with really massive scale and massive growth. Data for Jet is scale.
Microsoft Azure is really critical to our vision because it scales with us.
One of the amazing things about the Azure platform is it allowed us to go from not having a single line of code to having a fully functional e-commerce site in about 12 months. We've made our biggest bet on Cosmos DB. We're moving into the GPU world, machine learning, AI, personalization, recommendations, all the way that data surfaces to the consumer is really what drives a killer customer experience at Jet. E-commerce is going to be a $1 trillion business in the next 5 to 10 years.
We bring our whole personalities into the experience. It's fun, it's witty, and it's very human.
You name it, we're doing it here at Jet.
So Jet's been using Cosmos DB this past year, and now runs their Jet.com solution across 3 Azure regions and replicates using Cosmos DB their data across all of them. This enables them to deliver amazingly fast performance to their users and enables a highly durable and available application. And Jet's seen some really just incredible business growth this past year. Black Friday is the biggest shopping day of the year here in the United States, and Jet scaled their Cosmos DB deployment to support 100 trillion transactions that day. And they are able to achieve single-digit latency, millisecond-digit latency at the 99th percentile, something they could not have achieved with any other data service offering. Now, not only is Cosmos DB incredibly powerful, it's also incredibly approachable from a developer perspective. And what I'd like to do is invite Rima, who's one of the architects of Cosmos DB, on stage to show off how you can build solutions with it. Here's Rima.
Azure Cosmos DB, our globally distributed multi-model database service. Now imagine you want to build a planet-scale intelligent app with users worldwide. It has to be super fast, it has to be incredibly elastic, and it has to be highly available all over the world. In this demo, I'll show you how easy it is to do it with Azure Cosmos DB. So we've taken Marvel Universe dataset, which represents a complex network of comic characters, and built a simple web app around it, where fans from all over the world can come to this app, click on their favorite character, and ask them any type of question they want, as if they're interacting with a real human being. For instance, Iron Man, who are your friends? And get the response back. Or I can ask even more sophisticated question. For instance, who are your enemies that work for Hydra? And get the response back. Now, behind the scenes, the data is stored as a globally distributed graph inside Azure Cosmos DB. And we provide a near real-time response latency to all of the questions that I'm asking that actually get translated into graph queries that get submitted to Cosmos DB. So how do you build such an app? In fact, how do you even create a globally distributed database that spans the entire world? It's very easy. Let me show you how. So you come to Azure Portal, you click New, you go to Databases, then you pick Azure Cosmos DB right here, and then you specify what you normally would specify for any Azure service: ID, subscription, resource group. But what's really interesting here is a new set of APIs that you could choose from. If you want to use SQL, you can pick DocumentDB API. If you want to use Mongo, you can pick MongoDB API. And today we're announcing a public preview of 2 new APIs, Gremlin for Graph and Table API for premium table experience. Select the API, then the location where you want to start out, and then click Create, and that's it. You're done. We have just created a globally distributed database with very powerful capabilities. Now, applause. Thank you. Now, our data set is already stored inside Cosmos DB for the app that I showed you at the beginning. We can come to the Data Explorer and actually visualize it in the form of the graph itself. I can actually click on the nodes, see the connections between them. I can even specify a Gremlin query directly inside Azure Portal and get the results in near real time, right here in the form of a subgraph. Now remember, this is not just a regular graph. This is a globally distributed graph. And in fact, the data is already distributed across 9 regions worldwide. So let's assume my app goes viral and I get a lot of fans in Asia. All I need to do in order to add the new locations is just select the locations where I want my data to be, click Save, and that's it. The data gets seamlessly replicated into those regions. And this is called global distribution turnkey capability, which is very, very powerful. And at all of this time, my application continues to be highly available thanks to the multi-homing capability that Azure Cosmos DB provides. Now remember also, Cosmos DB is the first service that gives you horizontal scale-out of both of your storage and throughput. So my graph will be able to accommodate to the very bursty workloads worldwide. And in addition to that, I can answer any of my graph queries worldwide with less than 10 millisecond read latency, guaranteed. Now, the key message here to remember, though, is that regardless of the data model, regardless of the API you're using, regardless of the data distribution or even the failures, we continue providing you with a single system image for all of these globally distributed resources worldwide, so that you developers can concentrate on your application, not on the database behind it. Now, another unique capability that Azure Cosmos DB provides is a set of 5 well-defined consistency models. Now, this is a fascinating area. When you're building an application with the data that is globally distributed across the world, you're facing a fundamental trade-off. Do you want your application to serve perfectly consistent data all across the world to all of your users, but at the price of the performance? Or do you want your application to be incredibly responsive, but at the price of serving sometimes the data that is not up to date? Most of the database systems force you to choose between these 2 extremes, known as strong consistency and eventual consistency. Now, the insight here is that most of the real-world applications and the use cases don't fall in between these into these 2 extremes. So Azure Cosmos DB is the first database in the world that gives you 5 well-defined consistency models, including 3 intermediate consistency levels, including bounded staleness, session, and consistent prefix. So you can go and further optimize this trade-off that your application faces and pick the right trade-off between high availability, performance, and consistency of your data. Finally, the SLAs. Now, a true measure of any cloud service is measured by its SLA. After all, it's a service. It's not just a software. So while most of the other cloud services give you the SLAs for high availability, Azure Cosmos DB is the first service in the world that gives you comprehensive SLAs on all of the dimensions that application developers really care about. These include latency, throughput, consistency, and availability at the 99th percentile worldwide. So let's see, what does the application code actually looks like when we interact with Cosmos DB? Our application is a simple Node.js app, and all we had to do was add a Gremlin package, and then I have a very simple function called generate Gremlin query that takes my questions to the superheroes and translates them into corresponding Gremlin queries. Because it's a Gremlin endpoint, any open source Gremlin client will work just as is. So there you have it, Azure Cosmos DB, Microsoft's globally distributed multi-model database service. Because we truly believe that your applications deserve a database that is out of this world. We're very excited to see the type of applications that you're going to build with Cosmos DB. With that, back to you, Scott. Thank you so much.
As Rio mentioned, we're incredibly excited to see the types of apps that you build with Azure Cosmos DB. All the capabilities that we've talked about this morning and that Rima demoed are now available for you to use today. And in fact, the Azure Cosmos DB service is now generally available for you to use in all regions across Azure. And because Cosmos DB is an evolution of our Document DB service, all of our existing Document DB customers have been automatically migrated and upgraded to take advantage of Cosmos DB, meaning you can now take advantage of all these additional capabilities with it, starting immediately. So we talked about data. Let's switch gears now and talk about something else that a lot of developers ask me about, which is how best to modernize your applications as you move them to the cloud. Specifically, a lot of companies and a lot of developers don't want to just lift and shift their apps to the cloud. They also want to take advantage of new technologies, things like containers, microservices, serverless-based computing, to make them cloud native. And to do so without having to gut and rewrite all of their code from scratch, which is something that, hey, we'd all love to do, but we usually don't have always the luxury in order to actually do it. Alaska Airlines is one of the many companies that's in the process of modernizing their systems as they move to the cloud and to make them cloud native. And they're doing that on Azure. Let's hear their story.
Alaska Airlines recently merged with Virgin America, and together we became the 5th largest airline in the United States. The e-commerce organization at Alaska Airlines has really 2 big goals. One is to continue to drive guest satisfaction. The other big goal is for us to be able to test and learn. We believe that any code that isn't in production is waste.
Running our applications on Azure unlocks a lot of possibilities in terms of how we're able to deploy. It allows us to iterate more rapidly. We're able to experiment with a lot of different things and find what works best to serve our guests and give them the best experience. Breaking down our systems into microservices has enabled us to start taking pieces that are good candidates and moving them up into the cloud.
We use Azure Service Fabric to make sure once those containers are running, that we can easily put new versions out, that they still run, and when our demands grow, that it grows with it. We also use the Visual Studio Team Services build pipeline to compile our code to make sure that it's working, run tests, and then package up our Docker images. We upload those Docker images to Azure Container Registry.
I think the biggest win for us recently was last Cyber Monday. It was hassle-free. We could scale up and down without any fear, and we were able to have completely uninterrupted service for our guests. We grow customer loyalty by providing an awesome e-commerce experience. By using Azure, we're able to get ideas out to market faster and to test and see how our guests experience them and see if they move the needle on our business objectives.
So let's talk about how developers like Alaska are doing that. And with Visual Studio 2017, we now have integrated Docker support that delivers a fantastic container-based development experience. You can now easily develop, run, debug, and test container-based solutions directly within the Visual Studio IDE. And our DevOps support with Visual Studio Team Services now makes it easy to stand up a CI/CD environment that can be used to automatically build and deploy any container-based solution. You can, of course, use all this support for what I call greenfield applications or new applications that have been specifically designed with a microservice-based architecture. And these greenfield apps can leverage, for example, the new .NET Core framework that we've released to build very lightweight microservice-based applications that can run on both Windows and Linux-based container systems. You can also leverage, though, all this new container support to also gracefully update your existing applications to be containerized as well. It doesn't require you to completely rewrite all your systems at once. In fact, you can take full existing .NET Framework apps, including ones explicitly written to use IIS, that use WCF and other native Windows components, and now easily containerize them using Docker and run them within Windows Server containers as well. This means you can really start to take advantage of a microservice-based approach in every application and really start to get the agility and benefits that they provide, and then be able to continually tune and update your application with new capabilities after that. What I'd like to do is invite Maria on stage to show off how you can take an existing .NET application and easily modernize it with containers. Here's Maria.
Thank you, Scott. Wow, isn't this exciting? As Scott mentioned, with Visual Studio and Azure,
We're making it easy to build amazing new applications and modernize your existing ones for this cloud-native architecture. Over here, I have an application that might look like some of the ones that you in the room are running on Windows today. I'm going to show you how you can easily containerize your application in Visual Studio by simply right-clicking on it and adding Docker support. Visual Studio then goes and generates a Docker file for us that immediately detects this as a .NET Framework application requiring Windows, IS, and ASP.NET to run. And let's say you want to enable different services into your application. You can do that right here in your Docker file. Look, I've just enabled WCF. Now, since we've containerized our application, let's go ahead to make sure that it's running as we expected. Over here, I have a completely containerized version of my application. And I'm going to play around with it, and it's completely running locally on my machine. And I want to play around with it to see what's going to happen. OK, it looks like we've hit a breakpoint. The first breakpoint I've hit is in my CRM application, web application that is in a container on my left. And then when I hit continue, it goes to my web API, which is in a completely different container. Visual Studio now supports cross-container debugging. These are the experiences that you have become used to in Visual Studio, and we're just bringing them over to containers. And now my application is running as expected, so I'm feeling good about it, so I'm going to go ahead and put it into production. We understand that the modern workflow is very focused on being continuous. And that's why now you can right-click on your solution and configure continuous delivery. Continuous delivery enables us to specify the Azure Container Registry where we want to push our containers. And we can also specify the type of host where we want our containers to run. And you have options. You can use app services, and we also have Kubernetes coming soon. And today, I'm excited to show you Service Fabric. In just a few clicks, we have configured Visual Studio Team Services to manage our build and release pipelines. In our build pipeline, it will compile our code, it will build our container, and it will push it to a network-close Azure Container Registry. And just in case you want to add additional tasks, you can do it right here in VSTS and pick one from the thousands that we have in the marketplace. In our release definition, you'll see in one step how we are telling Service Fabric to take our Docker Compose file and push it to Azure. And I have to say, Azure is the best place to host your containers. Over here, we have our application running in a 5-node Service Fabric cluster. You can see how many applications we have, both new and existing, running in this high-density, highly reliable environment. And because of the dependency isolation that we get with containers, we can make sure that our applications are running comfortably together without interfering with each other. Scott Hanselman earlier showed you how we can begin to get rich telemetry on how our applications are performing. And we're bringing the same experience to containers. You can see how our application is performing at the infrastructure level, to the container level, as well as in the application itself. And with the application map, you can see how all our different services are interconnected together. Visual Studio is the best place to debug and containerize your applications, and Azure is the best place to host them. Thank you, and back to you, Scott.
So you saw how Maria was able to take an existing, full .NET Framework application, one written years ago, and able to use Docker to containerize it, then set up a CI/CD build pipeline, and then use it to easily deploy inside Azure. And she used Service Fabric to run the containerized application. Service Fabric is an incredibly powerful microservices framework that we provide here at Microsoft that you can use. And we also build most of our services inside Azure on top of it, including Cosmos DB, including our SQL DB offering. And what's great about Service Fabric is it really enables you to take advantage of a microservices-based approach and now natively supports Docker images, including the Docker Compose framework. This allows you to take the best of the Windows ecosystem and the best of the Linux ecosystem and use it together. And now you can take applications, including ones with existing code that you already have, update them to be a microservice-based architecture, add additional microservices, maybe with .NET Core or even with other different languages or frameworks, and run them all seamlessly inside a single cluster as part of it. I think this is really going to enable you to do some amazing things and build some amazing applications. What's great about Service Fabric is it runs both in Azure as well as on Azure Stack. And you can even stand it up on premises on existing bare metal servers or in VMs, including in other cloud-based environments. This gives you maximum flexibility to modernize your applications and to be able to start doing it immediately. So in addition to supporting containers using Service Fabric, we also enable you to build apps using containers in pretty much every Azure Compute Service now. For example, you can now use containers in Azure Web Apps and our Azure Batch service, which provide very optimized platform as a service offerings for web and scale-out processing scenarios. And with our Azure Container Service, we now enable you to build applications with every popular container orchestration framework out there, including Kubernetes, Mesos, and Docker Swarm-based systems. No other cloud provider gives you as much flexibility as Azure does when it comes to containers, and you can use all these great capabilities today. Now, as you look to modernize your applications and adopt a microservice-based architecture, one of the things that you'll probably want to start taking advantage of is serverless-based computing. A serverless approach allows you to execute code in an event-driven way, which can really help guide you to design your applications to scale better. And serverless computing can also, though, help you save money by enabling you to avoid having to pay for server resources that you might not be fully using. And Azure enables you to build robust serverless-based solutions now that can trigger off of literally hundreds of different event sources. So for example, you could write code to execute in response to an HTTP request, or an IoT event, as you saw earlier in Satya's keynote, or even something like a CRM record change in either Dynamics or Salesforce. Our Azure Function Service enables you to execute this on-demand serverless code, written in a wide variety of different languages, including C#, JavaScript, Java, and more. And with our new Visual Studio 2017 tooling support that we're releasing today, we now provide an incredibly rich way that you can develop Azure Function apps locally inside your IDE. This makes it incredibly easy to take advantage of serverless-based computing. And we're now the only cloud provider that gives you this type of end-to-end experience where you can develop, run, debug, and test entirely locally on your development machine. We also now have CI/CD support for Azure Functions with both Visual Studio Team Services as well as GitHub-based backends. And our Azure Logic App service enables you not just to execute code, but also to execute now on-demand serverless workflows. And these workflows can use more than 100 built-in data and app connectors that we provide, enabling you to trigger serverless workflows from systems like Dynamics 365, Office 365, Salesforce, Adobe, SAP, and more, and securely process and route data across long-running processes and workflows and business logic. And these workflows can also include Azure Function apps, and giving you the really robust way that you can now marry both code and declarative workflows together and all run it in a serverless environment. We're really excited today that we're announcing a bunch of updates around serverless that you'll be able to start taking advantage of. This includes the great new Visual Studio 2017 tooling support for both Azure Functions as well as for Azure Logic Apps. And we're also releasing serverless computing support with Azure Application Insights. You saw Maria show off Azure Application Insights as part of containers. You saw Scott Hanselman show it earlier in the context of a web app. The nice thing with Azure Application Insights is you can span all types of apps inside Azure, written in all types of languages, and now have a single view across them. And we know that the lack of monitoring insight into serverless-based apps has been one of the things that developers, both using Azure but also other cloud platforms, have always said is really, really hard to monitor these systems. Now, with this new release today, we're making it incredibly easy for you now to get rich monitoring support across your apps, which is going to make developing and running them even easier. Domino's Pizza is a great customer of ours who's running their systems on Azure today. And they're starting to leverage our Azure serverless functionality together with all the other Azure Platform as a Service capabilities we provide to really update and modernize their apps. Let's hear their story.
Domino's main customer demographic consume technology on a daily basis. It's part of their life. They have very little tolerance for solutions that don't run well or don't run at all.
We moved to a platform as a service model. We can roll out changes to any region and environment very quickly and also provision new environments much faster. Serverless computing will be the next evolution for us from platform as a service.
It's really handy at moving our data around. We know what Azure Functions has infinite scale, so we can move as much data as we need.
We are using Azure Functions now in some components of our ordering system where a consumption model makes sense. You don't have to worry about scaling, provisioning. Those things are very easy with Functions. It's easy to deploy and you don't need to manage any of the underlying infrastructure for it. You don't need to configure scaling.
We only pay for that data that we and those functions that we do use. We know that Azure is always going to be at the cutting edge of any cloud technology.
We can put the content closer to customers for a faster ordering experience.
Domino's is a company that never wants to be ordinary. We want to continue to develop and deploy meaningful tech, to continue to grow and expand the business, and we're willing to put our trust into Microsoft.
So we've been talking about some of the incredible capabilities that Azure provides. But I also hear from a lot of developers that there's scenarios where you just can't use the public cloud yet. And it's really that reality that compelled us to build Azure Stack. Azure Stack is an extension of Azure. Azure Stack provides a consistent cloud experience with the same management API, portal, and developer services available inside Azure. And it's a cloud that you can deploy and run literally anywhere. For example, with Azure Stack, you can now use the cloud for edge and disconnected scenarios. Carnival Cruise Lines is one of our early Azure Stack adopters. And Carnival's been using Azure now for several years and runs their fleet management software on Azure and has a large Azure data lake where they take all this data from their ships and perform analytics on top of it. They're big believers in the public cloud. The problem, though, they have is that sometimes they can't connect to the internet when their ships are out at sea. When you're in the middle of the Pacific and maybe there's a storm, it's not really good to have to rely on a satellite network link to connect to the internet to run something that's critical on the ship. And what's nice about Azure Stack is it now provides the ability for them to use Azure everywhere, not just when the ship's in port, but now when it's available out at sea. And now they're able to upgrade their onboard systems to be built and managed using Azure Stack and be able to use the same application logic, same set of core Azure services, even when running disconnected, and be able to build even better systems with it. The combination of Azure and Azure Stack also enables you to meet literally every regulatory need now. Azure today has more compliance certifications than any other cloud provider. We also now have 38 unique Azure data center regions around the world. For that perspective, that's more locations and countries than AWS and Google combined. This enables you to meet more data privacy and cloud residency requirements than any other public cloud solution. And yet, we also know that there continues to be scenarios where data and applications must still reside in a country that doesn't yet have a public cloud provider with a data center inside it. E&Y is one of the largest professional services firms in the world. They're using Azure to run many of their applications, and being a trusted and secure cloud was the key reason why they chose Azure. The documents and data that E&Y store are amongst the most sensitive pieces of data in the world. The challenge that they've had has been how to use public cloud for all of their clients. There's certain countries in the world where there's legal requirements that company documents are not allowed to leave that country's soil. And in some of those cases, there are no public cloud providers currently operating in those countries. And the beauty of Azure Stack is it basically now gives E&Y the ability to write their application once and deploy it both in Azure and then run it in its own facilities with Azure Stack for those particular countries. And this gives them literally the ability to meet every regulatory requirement in every country in the world with a single code base. Let's hear their story.
There's an explosion in innovation, technology, the digitization of business. Markets can be exploded overnight in a positive way or a negative way. Our clients look to us to help them take advantage of the opportunity that is just blossoming all around the world. Trust is really central to our relationship with our customers. Our advisory, tax, assurance practices are all technology-driven. Developers are central to delivering that value.
Azure and Azure Stack allows us to have a single point of development.
We develop one solution, and we can run that in public Azure or Azure Stack. The fact that we're always targeting the same set of services, we can provide the same set of SLAs to our customers. We use the same PowerShell tools that we use today with public Azure in order to stand up all the environments. The combination of virtual machine scale sets and load balancers, we can even spin up Service Fabric cluster. Seemed pretty striking to me. That is something that puts developers in the driver's seat.
Azure Stack gives us the ability to put Azure in countries where Microsoft does not have a full Azure data center. We are building on the digital platform and satisfying data privacy and sovereignty regulations in 140 countries around the world.
The possibilities are endless in being able to move applications, revisions of applications, and in country-specific applications for data sovereignty or custom use cases from one central location, one central code base.
Our vision is really to enable a better working world. Our charge is to make sure that the technology we build and deliver serves our clients and preserves the trust that they are putting in us to do the work.
And Azure Stack enables you to also begin modernizing your on-premises applications even before you move them to a public cloud environment. What we'd like to do to show off kind of how to use Azure Stack, how to build applications and what the experience is like, is invite Julia White on stage to give it a demo.
Thanks,
Here's
Scott.
Julia.
All right. Now let's take a look at Azure and Azure Stack working together to address that disconnected and edge scenario that Scott talked about. Now in this case, it's a shipping company, Northwind Traders, and they're using Azure for their global operating system, and they're using Azure Stack for that app that's running locally on the ship. Now here is their global operations system running in Azure, but monitoring the ship across the globe. Now I'm going to switch over to the Azure portal to see how this app was built. And you can see here in Azure, they're using a number of different services, in this case, Event Hub, to process and receive millions of transactions coming off of each of those ships. They're also using this web app service to do the live monitoring of the ships all over the sea. Now, this is the global operations system. Let me switch over to Azure Stack and talk about the system running on the ship locally. So I'm switching over here to Azure Stack, and you notice that. Let me zoom in so you can see that, Azure Stack. But you'll notice that the experience is entirely consistent, and that's the point. Azure Stack is an extension of Azure. The portal, the APIs, they're all consistent. This means you can leverage the same investments in people skills, in processes, and the application across Azure and Azure Stack. Now, Azure Stack has both IaaS as well as platform-based services, so I can use those same services in Azure in that global system as well as what's being used here local on the ship system. So you see here I have that same web app service that I'm using in Azure Stack that I was also using in Azure in that global system. Now again, this is a disconnected and edge scenario, and so while at sea, sometimes bandwidth can be limited or super expensive. So it's a perfect scenario for serverless compute with Azure Functions. You see here I'm using Azure Functions to actually parse data real time on the ship to decide what stays local and what goes up to my global operating system and when it goes as well. And I can even go in and I can monitor all the events hitting my serverless compute system here right from my Azure Stack system, just like I would from Azure. Again, that same serverless computing experience. So let me flip over to Visual Studio and look at how this hybrid application was built. And again, because the APIs are consistent across Azure and Azure Stack, I have the same developer experience as well. You see here in Visual Studio, I have that global system running as here, and then I also have that local system that's running on the ship. And there, in fact, is those function service that I talked about parsing the ship data. Now, I can update my app here, maybe add a new feature perhaps, and then go ahead and deploy it directly to Azure or Azure Stack. I can even integrate it with my CI/CD pipeline to do an automated deployment and test targeting both Azure and Azure Stack. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and manually just kick off this deployment. So go over to my application here, deploy. Now, thanks to Azure Active Directory, it actually pulls my subscriptions across Azure as well as Azure Stack. So I've opened that up and zoom in, and you can see there, in fact, are my Azure subscriptions as well as my Azure Stack subscription running that app locally on the ship. So go ahead and deploy that out to Azure Stack. Deploy. Now, I just, right here from Visual Studio, push that app out to my Azure Stack deployment running on the ship. Azure Stack is truly an extension of Azure, enabling you to design, to develop, and operate your applications wherever your customers and your business needs. Thanks so much.
So you saw from Julia there in terms of how easy it is to build Azure Stack-based systems, and the consistency that it gives you with the public cloud. Now, Azure Stack is just one part of our overall, though, hybrid cloud consistency story. With Azure, your hybrid cloud runs both really as one holistic system and can span identity, data, application platform, and infrastructure. This really takes the complexity out of running a hybrid cloud and really enables you to start taking advantage of cloud immediately, again, for pretty much every scenario. So we've talked a lot about technology this morning. Let's switch gears now and talk about how Azure helps grow your business. Now, I know a lot of software companies attending Build this week are delivering their software now as a service or looking to do so soon. And many great companies here are already running their solutions already on Azure. And this slide here just highlights a small sampling of some of the SaaS providers running on Azure, really across a wide range of different industries and verticals. Now, last year, Adobe chose Azure as their preferred cloud partner to deliver their SaaS-based offerings now going forward. And I'm really honored to have Abe, the CTO of Adobe, join me on stage to talk a little bit about their experience and what drove this decision. Please welcome Abe.
Hey, thank you, Scott. Good morning, Bill. It's really great to be here. Excited to talk a little bit about the great partnership we have between Adobe and Microsoft.
It's great to have you here. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about Adobe and the enterprise SaaS solutions that you're delivering?
I think probably most people in this room probably still think of Adobe as the Photoshop and PDF company. But over the last few years, we have been on a really exciting transformation of our business and have become in the process one of the leading enterprise SaaS companies, with a very common and shared vision with Microsoft of a cloud-first, mobile-first world powered by intelligence and content and data. With our SaaS solutions, we are completely reimagining the entire creative process, future of documents, and perhaps most importantly, working closely with Microsoft, we are driving a very ambitious agenda to reimagine what the modern enterprise experience looks like with content, data, and intelligence at its core.
That's pretty awesome. So, the Adobe clouds are really focused on content and data, as you mentioned, at the core. Can you talk about the solutions and some of the unique things that you're trying to solve?
Yeah, I mean, for us, really at the heart of our product strategy and a business strategy is this notion that blending the art of content with science of data, and doing so at massive cloud scale with a real focus on the real-time intelligence. You heard a lot about that this morning, and we share a lot of the same vision. Whether it's hundreds of millions of images and photos and videos that process through Creative Cloud, or billions of documents and PDF files that flow through Document Cloud, and frankly, in our Experience Cloud, which is our enterprise-focused offering, today, globally, we are measuring something on the order of 90+ trillion analytic transactions for some of the biggest companies on the planet. Now, when you think about these services at this scale, it requires a platform that's engineered from the ground up for massive scale, rich portfolio of services, and an integrated tools ecosystem. For me personally, as CTO of Adobe, one of the biggest reasons I'm excited about our deep bet on Azure is it gives us a platform for innovation unlike any other. So specifically, as Scott and team have been working with us, we are building a lot of these next-generation solutions with deep bet on Azure capabilities like Azure Data Lake, Data Factory, the work we are doing with common data models, and even all the way to rich integration with visualization capabilities like Microsoft Power BI.
So we've talked about your core platform services. Can you also talk a little bit about sort of what it's like to partner with Microsoft to really reach enterprise customers at scale, and the work that we're doing together to enable that?
Yeah, I mean, I think frankly, with a lot of you hear these partnerships with press releases and marketing releases. This partnership is very different for us for a couple of reasons. First, It's actually a real deep engineering level partnership. The amount of work that goes on between Redmond and San Jose, between the teams, is just unbelievable. Over the last 6 months, we have already delivered 3 core joint solutions working with Microsoft Teams. First, Adobe Campaign Orchestration is now integrated with Dynamics CRM. Second, some of the biggest brands on the planet can now use Adobe's content management product, Experience Manager, natively on Azure. And last but not the least, Adobe Analytics, which is our enterprise analytics offering, is now fully integrated with Power BI. Now, as we look at customers and see their interest in these solutions, the other thing I hear loud and clear from some of the biggest enterprise customers is their extreme focus on global scale and availability, focus on security, trust, privacy, as well as increasing demands around data sovereignty, privacy, and compliance. So for us, frankly, at Adobe, beyond just feature function and checklist of which services, this is actually one of the unique things about Azure that gives us a major competitive advantage when we talk to enterprise customers in mission-critical environments. And then for me personally, last but not the least, as I look to the future and even announcements this morning, the collaboration with Microsoft that I'm excited about is the work we are starting to do in connecting our intelligence capabilities across solutions and really power new experiences with intelligence at their core.
That's awesome. So, as one of the world's largest software vendors, can you talk a little bit about the work that we're also doing across the broader ecosystem and some of the benefits that developers can expect?
Yeah, I mean, for us, when we thought about our needs as a company and one of the large SaaS ISVs, going beyond just our own internal cloud platform needs, frankly, for us, Microsoft partnership was also strategic because of the broad developer ecosystem reach and increasingly the millions and hundreds of millions of end users in the Office ecosystem that we can reach through our SaaS solutions. Now, the second part of this is for our own business, we wanted a solution that lets us reach out to all of you as developers and ISVs and partners, and Microsoft gives us that extensibility play in a very credible way. So the work we are starting to do with your teams around defining common data models and a common industry taxonomy for a modern enterprise is really exciting and frankly unlocks a whole new vista of kind of opportunities, capabilities for developers in this room to innovate jointly on these platforms.
That's awesome. Well, so what's next and what's coming now?
I think for us, really, I mean, these are exciting times, and there are a lot of developers or ISVs in the room. This is an exciting time where each of you can really reimagine and deliver completely new radical experiences and deliver those to your customers. For us at Adobe, this really meant taking a long view and choosing a cloud platform that goes well beyond just a commodity compute and storage and price points. For us, a cloud platform of the future has to not only be best in class for developers, it has to pass that litmus test, but it really has to also solve mission-critical enterprise needs of global customers, and frankly, go all the way up to innovation for the business users. So when we looked at Azure and more broadly the Microsoft ecosystem, for us, that was a very clear strategic choice. And frankly, some of the joint customer dialogues that are going on probably tell me that we are off to a really good start. And so for me, I'm super excited about this partnership in terms of what it means today and the kind of work we can do together going forward in future. So thanks for the partnership.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being here, Bill.
Thanks, guys.
As Abe mentioned, SaaS companies love Azure, not just because of the core cloud and data platform capabilities it provides, not just because of the trust, compliance, security, and enterprise needs that it meets. They also like it because it really provides this opportunity to take their SaaS solution and offer it to enterprise business users that are already using the Microsoft Cloud and enable them to deeply integrate it in ways that makes their own solution even more compelling. One of the data points we shared recently in our most recent financial earnings call is that we now have 100 million monthly active enterprise users using Office 365. And Azure provides the easiest way for you to integrate with Office 365, reach those 100 million users, and grow your business. Every Office 365 customer uses Azure Active Directory as their identity system. And using Azure Active Directory, we've made it incredibly easy for you to securely integrate your SaaS apps into both the rich Office 365 app experiences as well as the online experiences as well. We've also integrated many of our Microsoft apps and experiences to use the Microsoft Graph. You heard Satya talk and do some demos of that earlier, and you'll see more throughout the conference. And this Microsoft Graph is all built on top of Azure Active Directory. And it provides a REST-based API that developers can use to securely integrate data and functionality across Office 365, Dynamics 365, Azure, and Windows. And in addition to enabling your SaaS apps to be integrated into the Office 365 ones, we're also making it easy for the Office 365 apps, things like Power BI and Power Apps and Flow, to securely integrate with your SaaS apps and enable rich integration scenarios to make your SaaS apps and SaaS data even more valuable to enterprise customers. And with our new Azure AppSource Marketplace, we make it incredibly easy for all of our Office 365 and Dynamics 365 enterprise users to be able to find and discover your applications and try them out. With just a few clicks, an end user can securely integrate and try out your SaaS app together with all the existing solutions that they've already deployed in the Microsoft Cloud. And when one of our enterprise customers tries out the SaaS application using AppSource, one of the nice things we do is actually automatically push a lead through an API into your CRM system, regardless of whether it's a Dynamics or even a Salesforce CRM system, so that you can immediately follow up directly with that customer and try to close that business. And that is a great way to kind of accelerate your go-to-market in a tremendous way, and enables Microsoft to deliver to you potentially thousands of super high-quality leads of enterprise users to every single month for your SaaS capability. And for SaaS vendors who run their systems on Azure and qualify for our co-sell program, we're even now going one step further. And as part of that lead that we pass to you, we'll actually connect you with the Microsoft salesperson that manages that particular enterprise account. And we'll even now pay the Microsoft salesperson every time you close a SaaS deal with one of their customers. So they're incredibly incented to help you every step of the way with those conversations with those enterprise users. Now, the opportunity for all of us to build applications that can change the world has really never been greater. Each of you now has access to cloud resources that were unimaginable just a few years ago. And I say this every year, but it's always true. It's never been a better time to be a developer. And all of us at Microsoft are really looking forward to seeing what you build. What I want to do now is hand it over to Harry, who's going to basically walk you through now that I've established the core Azure platform, how you can take advantage of AI in even richer ways and infuse it through all your apps to make them even smarter. Thanks a bunch and have a great build.
Good morning. It's great to be here. Thank you for listening to Satya, Scott, and now me. Let me begin my talk by taking you back to the start of the day. Satya talked about this new app pattern, this new worldview of the intelligent edge and the intelligent cloud. Central to this is artificial intelligence, and this is what I'm going to talk to you about now. I have been in the field of AI for a long time. It's amazing to see AI now becoming more a reality. I hope many of you by now know Microsoft Cognitive Services, but I'm not sure if any of you were in that small breakout room 2 years ago when we launched Cognitive Services with only 4 APIs. Maybe some of you were in that big breakout room last year when we launched with 22 APIs. And this year, apparently, I have been promoted by Satya to the main stage. But seriously, the time for AI is now. At Microsoft, we believe AI is about amplifying human ingenuity. This is our vision for AI at Microsoft. You may ask, why now? Well, there are 3 big forces converging that are making AI possible. The first big compute, especially how you can take advantage of huge computing power in the cloud. Second, powerful algorithms with amazing progress in deep learning and the deep reinforcement learning. Number three, massive amount of data that fuels powerful AI applications. Microsoft is in a very, very unique position to help you take advantage of these forces because of three important and unique assets we provide for you. First, the Microsoft Cloud. You have heard all about the power of the cloud at a global scale from Scott and others. That's Microsoft Azure. Second, we provide breakthrough AI algorithms coming from Microsoft Research. Microsoft Cloud plus AI brings all this innovation to you as a developer. And the third, what about the data? To have great AI, you need great data. In particular, Microsoft Graph gives you access to the most important data for your business. That's your work data. All in a trusted platform where you own your data and you have full control of it. Let me tell you about some of the innovations we have been driving. Let me start with my own area of computer vision. You have all heard about the deep neural nets making great progress for image recognition, for object segmentation. 2 years ago, at the Microsoft Research, we created a new approach to recognize images with a very deep neural network architecture called ResNet. With 152 layers, we won the first place in all the 3 categories we participate in ImageNet competition. I'm sure many of you in the audience now use ResNet to train your deep neural nets for your applications. We are also making great progress in speech. 6 months ago, we became the first to reach human parity in speech recognition with the famous switchboard data set that is a collection of phone call data. And we beat the human error rate 5.9%, and we continue to improve. While the research is inspiring, what's more exciting to me is what you can do with these exciting technologies. Microsoft is a platform company. Developers will always be at the heart of everything we do. Let me show you how we are bringing AI to every developer. A great example is cognitive services that I have been working on. Since we launched 2 years ago, more than 500,000 developers have been using our services. Thank you. Cognitive services provides the broadest and the deepest set of developer services for AI in the industry. Today, we are releasing additional services, taking us to a total of 29 APIs across vision, speech, language, search, and knowledge. This includes the new video indexer service. It actually combines a lot of features from speech to face to vision to semantic understanding. And we are opening our cognitive services labs for you as well, so you can try a lot of new preview services. We'll start with some fun hand gesture recognition. Since we launched the cognitive services, we have been talking to many of you developers, understanding what you like and what you want. Our big learning is that you really like customization. For example, Louis, our custom language understanding tool. And today, I'm very excited to announce deeper customization across our services. So this set of services can custom train for your scenarios while still using REST APIs without the need of designing very complex models. So this will make it so much easier for you to develop your own AI applications. Let's take a look at how an indie game developer, Human Interact, is applying these custom services. Let's roll the video.
So think about this. How often are you alive when the dawn of a new medium comes out? Starship Commander is a choose-your-own-adventure VR narrative that uses natural language processing, so you can actually have a real conversation with the characters.
What's my mission? It must be something pretty important.
We're a science fiction game. We come up with new words. No off-the-shelf software could let us put in custom words.
Who are the Acmeans?
We started using Microsoft Cognitive Services to power the backend. Once we plugged custom speech service into Starship Commander, I had tears in my eyes when I was playing it because it's like, oh my God, this is it. This is the experience we want.
Open the hatch.
You can essentially put your script in there and it knows, oh, these are the ways that people are going to talk. And these are the phrases that they're going to say. And then the second thing was the intent detection. With Lewis, you basically give it a couple statements. You crunch it, you start typing in your own statements, and it's shockingly scary how good it picks up even stuff that you didn't put in there. There's a wide open playing field. No one's written the rules yet. I've never seen an opportunity like this.
Wow, isn't that fantastic? I couldn't even understand some of those names and terms in the video game, but cognitive services can. So our advancements with speech and language are enabling an important concept I call the conversational AI. To me, that's the most exciting thing about AI now. It builds on what Satya talked about last year at the Build, conversation as a platform. It represents the next user interface paradigm shift. Just like many years ago, when we moved from command line to graphics user interface, we made it easier for people to interact with computers. But we still had to learn a lot about the computers, even with GUI. With conversational AI, we move from a world where we have had to learn about the computers to a new world where computers understand humans and AI speaks human. Imagine how you can build a whole new generation of conversational AI applications. Let me invite Cornelia up on stage to show you a demo bringing all of this together. Cornelia.
Thank you, Harry, and hello, everybody. So, Harry spoke earlier about customization, and he showed you Lewis, custom speech service, and he also mentioned custom vision service. Together, these three services make it really easy for you to build your own custom AI models across speech understanding, language and text, and now image understanding. And they're really easy to use. You just need 3 steps. 1, bring your own training data, usually a few dozen of samples for training. 2, click a button to actually train your model within minutes. And 3, you get your model automatically hosted behind the REST API that you can bake within your apps. Today, I will spend some more time introducing Custom Vision Service, which is our new cognitive service now available on Azure. What it does is it allows you to build your own image recognition systems, and it's pretty flexible. It can work across identifying retail objects, to food, to even landmarks. And to show you how it works, I actually have this little app today that I'm going to show you. And what it does is it takes a picture of a plant or of a leaf, and it tries to identify what it is. And yes, we went outside and plucked a rhododendron. All right, so it identifies that it is a rhododendron from that one picture that I gave it. And the cool thing about this is that I didn't have to use any deep learning frameworks. I didn't have to find thousands of training images, and I didn't have to wait for hours for my model to train. It was actually pretty easy to do because of Custom Vision Service. And all I had to do is really upload a few dozen images to a photo album, which is what I have here, and you can see all of the plants that I've trained it over. Then I clicked on this big green button, and within minutes, I got my own endpoint hosted that I used in the app that I showed you earlier. You can follow these same steps to build your own model. Now, cool, once you've built it, how do you actually keep it learning? How do you keep it improving over time as your app sees more and more images from your users? Well, we got you covered with this thing we call active learning. And what active learning does is it looks at all of the images that may flood your app, and it smartly selects only those that will add the most gain to your classifier. So what it tells you is, say we pick this image here. It's actually an image of a tea camellia, but it only has about 52% confidence that you got it right, which is not very high. So it surfaces it to you. You can go and reinforce that, yes, it is a tea camellia, save, retrain, and then you get your model smarter. This, in a nutshell, is custom vision. It's available today, so go and try it out at customvision.ai. Take it for a spin. We can wait to see what you guys build with this guy. All right. Customization is one of the ways in which we are improving cognitive services. Another way is by allowing you to use our state-of-the-art machine-learned models in a highly parallelized fashion. So what that means is if you have, say, petabytes and petabytes of images, you can actually use our text understanding or image understanding models to get those images all analyzed. And if you're familiar with SQL, then you can understand these 20 lines or so of uSQL code that I'm showing you here. And what this code does, it uses our landmark understanding model across a load of images that I uploaded in Azure Data Lake, and it's able to find all the ones that contain Mount Fuji in it. Because of Azure Data Lake, it runs within minutes, finishes executing, and then you get your whole images analyzed. Now, we ship these tools and services because we want to ensure that you can bake AI wherever you need it, whether it's a little consumer app like what I showed you earlier with my Leaf classifier, or whether it's a massive data pipeline in Azure Data Lake. But that's not where we stop. We want to ensure that you can reach your users wherever they may be, whatever channels they may use. That's why we talk a lot and we spend a lot of time focusing on conversations. And that's why we shipped Bot Framework last year with 9 channels. This year, in Bot Framework, we're introducing 3 additional channels where you can reach your users: Cortana Skills, Skype for Business, and Bing. And with Bing, we want to ensure that bot integration and bot discovery are as seamless as possible. And what I'm showing you here is an experience that's live today. You can go try it out. For those from out of town, I highly recommend this restaurant. So if you want to know if this restaurant has veggie dishes, so let's ask it. You just ask that question in line. You don't have to dig through apps or dig through web pages to find out if there are any vegetarian dishes. It's as easy as that. Now, we have now 12 total channels in Bot Framework, and your users may use a bunch of those, or they may use a lot more other apps or platforms or operating systems. So it's a lot of UX code for you to think of, and we don't want you to have to rewrite it over and over again to have it handled natively in your apps. Now, that's why today we're introducing Adaptive Cards, which is a new open framework. It's already available on GitHub, so you can go try it out. What Adaptive Cards does is it allows you to build your JSON once, write code once, and then have it displayed over these multiple apps, platforms, or operating systems. And let me show you actually how it works. This is a sample JSON that I have here, and it uses basic building blocks like text blocks or images or buttons. And then the framework is the one that allows me to display it natively in things like Microsoft Teams. This is how the same JSON would look like on Skype. And this is that same JSON, say, on Slack via Bot Framework. This is Adaptive Cards, also available for you to use today and take it for a spin. Now, these are all the demos that I've been able to fit today, and there's a lot more that I didn't get to show you, which is why I highly encourage you to go to our sessions later today, or to check more information out on Microsoft.com/AI. We can't wait to see how you guys infuse AI into your apps, and with that, I'll give it back to Harry. Thank you.
Thank you, Cornelia. Adaptive cards is just the beginning of how we are bringing cross-platform experience together. Tomorrow, you will hear from Terry Myerson more about that. All of this AI capability is now available today on Azure.com. In addition to new cognitive services, we are also releasing updates to the bot framework, such as adaptive cards you have seen, and new controls and the channels for the analytics and the payments. We're also releasing a new service in Azure to train your deep neural nets efficiently. And it supports all your favorites, deep learning framework, whether you like a cognitive toolkit, or TensorFlow, or Caffe, or others. So I hope you have seen how Azure plus AI provides a comprehensive platform with everything you need to infuse AI into your applications. We give you a powerful data platform with integrated AI, like we have seen in the demo, using Azure Data Lake. We give you great computing infrastructure with Azure CPUs and GPUs to train and deploy your algorithms, and with FPGAs in the future. With cognitive services, bot services, and great tools like Azure Machine Learning, you can create amazing AI applications. Let's see a real example from a partner, AirDoc. They have been using AI and Azure to improve healthcare. Let's roll the video.
In China, there are 100 million people with diabetes. Diabetic retinopathy, or DR, is one of the most common complications of diabetes. Patients will go blind without proper treatment.
AirDoc DR is very useful and very easy to use. Just upload the photos and it will give the diagnosis.
We leverage our deep learning technologies on Azure with a set of open source tools like Linux and Python. Training deep learning models in Azure is very easy.
With support of distributed training feature in cognitive toolkits, we can shorten the training time so we can iterate our algorithm quickly.
Azure provides N24 servers, which is GPU server we use a lot. Azure commercially availability ensures our data security as well as our mission-critical service level to our customers. Every day is a great day because we are saving people's lives.
It's really great to see how it's really great to see how developers around the world are using AI to improve our world. At home, we are also using AI to redefine Microsoft. From Windows to Xbox, from Bing to Office, every product in Microsoft is being transformed with AI. Let me use an example of PowerPoint. And let me invite Ina on stage to show you how PowerPoint is using cognitive services to create a new experience. Ina.
Thank you, Harry. Hello, Build. I'm a proud engineer in the Office team, and artificial intelligence is pervasive in Microsoft Office. You can see it with Researcher and Editor in Word, or maybe Clutter and Focus Inbox in Outlook. In Excel, we have ScriptLab and Dynamic Mapping. And how about Designer and Quick Starter in PowerPoint? These are all great examples of infusing AI into the experience. And today, I'm going to show you how PowerPoint and AI can help us reach new audiences. I am pleased to announce and show for the first time the Presentation Translator add-in for PowerPoint. It uses the same custom speech and translation services that Harry just mentioned and that you can use as a developer. Let me show you. When I launch it, a dialog will allow me to select my language, Spanish, and the language I want to display the subtitles, English. Notice there are more than 60 languages supported. Before the presentation starts, a few slides will be added to help attendees get transcriptions on their own device and language. Harry, please join us an attendee on this iPhone's Translator app.
All right.
You will be asked to provide your name, and the language you want to use.
I look at the barcode. OK, great. So
attendees can also use this in the same language to help meet accessibility needs. OK, Harry. Are you in?
I think so.
Check here. Good. Now, I'm going to unmute my site to demonstrate the real-time translation capabilities between the presentation and the attendee devices. I want you to take a look at the translations at the bottom of the slides. La inteligencia artificial puede eliminar las barreras lingüísticas entre los presentadores y los asistentes. Lo que estás viendo es real y una gran demostración de la inteligencia artificial.
Wow. I can even read here in Chinese.
The PowerPoint translator add-in custom trains the model based on my voice and my slides, using the power of the custom speech service. And we're also making audience participation easier. The PowerPoint translator add-in is bidirectional, and I can use it to unmute the audience and let them send questions and comments into the presentation. Harry, do you want to say something on your end in Mandarin?
Well, I have to try my rusty Chinese. OK. 人工智能太棒了。
Let's try again.
人工智能太棒了。Let me try again.
Let's do that.
人工智能太棒了。
There you go. How is that for an impressive demonstration of bringing Office to life with AI? There it is.
Great. Thank you.
To learn more, visit aka.ms/PowerPoint translator. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Ina. This is great. You should really try the translate the demo and this app. It's really fascinating. You can, we support the 9 spoken languages and the 60 languages in text. Another key product being infused with AI is Cortana. Satya talked already earlier about what we are trying to achieve with Cortana. We want Cortana to be your personal intelligent assistant that goes wherever you go, at work, at home, at the gym, and on the go. Cortana continues to expand its reach across platforms and devices. In addition to our partnership with Harman Kardon, today we are excited to announce that 2 new partners, Intel and HP, have signed on to help develop Cortana-enabled devices. As developers, you will now have the power to build Cortana skills using the Skill Kit, which utilizes Microsoft Bot Framework. I cannot wait to see the skills you will build for more than 100 million Cortana users. Finally, let me talk about the data. Data is the magic that enables AI. Microsoft offers you an unmatched data graph, including work knowledge from Office 365, Dynamics, and even your devices, and the world knowledge in Bing and LinkedIn. When you combine that Microsoft data graph with your own business data and your understanding about your users, you are finally ready to build incredible AI applications. Let's take a look at how this comes together with one of our partners, Tact. Tact is a company on a mission to make enterprise software more human-friendly by transforming the daily sales experience. Let me welcome Ina to come on to the stage again to show you what they do. Ina.
Thank you, Harry. Artificial intelligence is more powerful when it is applied to valuable data through the Microsoft Graph, which I have been working on. Let's take a look at how Tact is elevating their solution with Microsoft and how easy it is for developers. Here, I'm going to show you how Tact, who offers a smart assistant for CRM that helps users interact with line of business applications in a more natural way. In the video, you saw how Tact is adding Cortana support into their solution. they're also working to building conversational AI on top of the bot framework to help connect with Dynamics, Bing, LinkedIn, and Office 365. Let me show you. Here, Tagged has used the Bing Knowledge Graph to identify an account alert and send a proactive message to my account team. Because Tagged is connected to Office 365, it can leverage the Microsoft Graph to find for information about any previous interactions with this new executive. The Microsoft Graph provides a single API endpoint for accessing the data and intelligence in the Microsoft Cloud. And it looks like we've done business with her before, because Tagged, through the Microsoft Graph, found 10 references to her across conversations, files, notes, and meetings. Tagged even performed sentiment analysis on these sources using the power of the text analytics service with the data that it gets from the graph, and giving me back a nice indication of the previous interactions with her. Just imagine the possibilities. Now, let's try to find her on LinkedIn. Behind the scenes, Tagged will query LinkedIn for people that match my request and give me the ability to see their profiles and connect with them. I'm going to ask Tagged to send a connection with the right person. Tagged is also deeply integrating with Dynamics 365 and has automatically created a lead for this new executive. The confirmation includes a deep link that I can use without leaving Microsoft Teams. Tagged does this by creating a custom tab that aggregates all the valuable data about this account. Tagged can also use the Microsoft Graph to add a reminder to my calendar. I'll select top collaborators, and the Microsoft Graph will use intelligence to find the people that I collaborate with the most in this particular deal. If we take a look at my calendar, you can see I'm pretty busy, but Tagged, through the Microsoft Graph, will find meeting availability across all attendees and schedule the reminder. It's going to take a second. There it goes. Tagged and the Microsoft Graph updated my calendar in real time. You can see the red one right there. Now let's take a look at some code. Do you recall that I showed how Tagged uses the Microsoft Graph to find conversations where Julia was mentioned, and then perform sentiment analysis on the response? You can do this with 2 simple HTTP requests while maintaining the secure and consistent access to your data. First, we're going to call the Microsoft Graph on the group's endpoint to search for conversations where Julia was mentioned. You can do this in any language. Here I'm using Node.js and TypeScript. Also, you will notice a token in the header. This is how Azure Active Directory secures your data in the Microsoft Cloud. The response is simple JSON of the matching conversations that I can pass into the text analytics service. That call is also very simple. All I do is pass in the JSON data and get back the sentiment score. This is how easy it is to integrate AI with a vast amount of data in Office 365. To learn more about integrating with Office 365 through the Microsoft Graph, join me this afternoon in the Microsoft Graph breakout session and visit graph.microsoft.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Ina. I'm very excited about what Tagged is doing. They really demonstrate everything about the data that I have been talking about, and it shows how AI can truly transform your business. AI is going to disrupt every single business app, whether an industry vertical like banking, retail, or healthcare, or a horizontal business process like sales, marketing, or customer support. Our goal as a company is to help you embrace AI and apply it to your business. I love this quote from Alan Kay, as I truly believe that the best way to invent the future is, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. Go to Microsoft.com, whack AI, and get started. I'd like to close my presentation with a video that I think demonstrates the transformative power of Microsoft AI to amplify human ingenuity. We are very privileged to have this opportunity to work with all of you. We invite you to get on the AI journey together with us. Thank you, and enjoy the conference and the Seattle sunshine.